Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're well, you amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Thursday, baby. It's Thursday. This is video 3 of 3. That's it. And we're getting straight into the meat and potatoes. You're looking absolutely amazing, I must add. But yeah, we're getting straight into the meat and potatoes. Is what we're talking about. We're talking about Bryan Kohberger and autism. Let's get into it. It's going to be a rough ride. Here we go. So... yeah, we have Bryan Kohberger. So we have a look at this article first, because this is what the news is saying. Defense for Idaho quadruple murder suspect Bryan Kohberger may cite autism to try to strike death penalty option. Obviously, the defense have gone after the death penalty and failed previously, but this is what the media are claiming. Attorneys for the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students to death, murdering them to death, have nodded to autism spectrum disorder in asking the court to ensure the 30-year-old wouldn't get the death penalty if convicted, court records show. Bryan Kohberger was accused of killing Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Anna Knodel, and Ethan Chapin at an off-campus home in November 2022. Kohberger's trial is expected to begin in August. Not guilty pleas have been entered on his behalf. The slaying shrouded a college town in grief and fear as authorities embarked on a cross-country search that culminated with the arrest of Kohberger, a criminology graduate student in Pennsylvania, more than a month after the killings. His defense recently filed a motion to strike death penalty regarding autism spectrum disorder. Summaries of court documents show a motion to redact or seal newly filed records was also entered in support of their motion to strike death penalty, RE, autism spectrum disorder under seal. As of early Wednesday morning, the full documents were not publicly available online. They're still not. And it was not immediately clear whether Kohberger has been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, which I doubt it, and we're going to get into that in a second, or if the defense was seeking a diagnosis. Hopefully better in the UK. Again, we're going to get into that in a second. The motions mark the latest attempt by Kohberger's attorneys to try to remove the possibility of the death penalty. The efforts also follow their failed attempts to convince a judge to suppress evidence related to investigative genetic genealogy, a relatively new technique in which authorities upload an unknown suspect's DNA to a database to learn about potential relatives. No, so it isn't that simple, though, is it? What they're trying to do is make sure that people are held accountable for doing shit that they shouldn't be fucking doing. That's what the issue is around the IGG. It's not the fact that it's new or anything like that. The issue is how they got some of the information is being hidden, and it's been hidden because they shouldn't have done it in the way that they did it. The prosecution, meanwhile, recently asked the judge to bar the use of an alibi defense and the claim there was another perpetrator without evidence being shared first. Prosecutors also asked for some sealed expert testimony on Kohberger's mental health to not be allowed. Limited research about autism and crime, which there is. I've tried to look into it. They're basically saying that there's no more likely than people without autism to offend or encounter a criminal justice system. Advocacy groups, Autism Speaks, and the Autism Society have pushed for more training among law enforcement and the judicial system to recognize people's diagnosis, characteristics, and needs. And this is where we get into why it's quite important to understand. Now, I'll go into some more personal stuff in a second because we're dealing with this ourselves. But if we just look at an overview of the traits of autism, like difficulty making friends, preferring to be alone, appearing blunt or rude, having trouble reading social cues, being anxious in social situations, struggling to make eye contact, then it goes into sort of repetitive behaviors, which is... again, repetitive movements with the hands, arms, head, or fingers, playing with toys. I don't know whether Bryan would be playing with toys. Liking a strict daily routine, anxiety, stress, or excessive worry, lack of fear or more fear than expected, getting very anxious about social situations, getting very upset if a routine changes. But why is it important? Because so many things, so many traits have been sort of thrown around with respect of Bryan Kohberger, such as you know, wearing gloves and, you know, going out at night. And I'm going to, this is a side note as well. The next person to claim that Bryan Kohberger, his alibi is that he was looking at the stars and moon on the night of this crime, I'm going to block you from this fucking channel. Because I'm going to do you a favour, because if you, this far down the track, still think that Bryan Kohberger's alibi was that he was watching the moon and stars and go on to say, well, that's stupid because it was fucking cloudy, I'm going to, you're too stupid to be in the true crime niche and following it, because you can't. Had someone yesterday doing it started with, oh, my late mum, which, you know, God bless you. I'm sorry you lost your mum. That's sad. But that's an opener, and I think this is going to be quite poignant. This is. They're going to tell me something that's going to be life-changing. And then they go on to say about Bryan Kohberger that he's guilty because his shit alibi, because he said he was watching the moon. Fucking lost all respect for that person. Lost all respect in a heartbeat. There's a pity your late mum didn't teach you to fucking listen better, you tosser. Anyway, ran over. So, like, one of our children, she is... we believe that she's got autism. The doctors believe she's got autism. School believes she's got autism, but she has to have a diagnosis. And we're currently seeing an 18-year, I shit you not, an 18-year waiting list. There's over 2,000 referrals currently, and they just can't get through them, so they're not taken on anymore until they've cleared the backlog, which they're saying could take in excess of 18 years. So our daughter is about to do her GCSEs, most important exams of her life. She'd missed a large proportion of the schooling because of the lockdowns and things like that. So that was fucked. So now she can't get the provisions that she needs with respect of the exams, because in order to be given the provisions, she needs to have a diagnosis, and because the diagnosis will take 18 years, she ain't going to get them. But we see these traits. We see these traits in her. And, you know, it's like you... Why did the prosecutors, why did law enforcement want you to believe that Bryan Kohberger was a stalker? Because that's a repetitive trait, to keep going and stalking someone. It's very unlikely that someone with autism would just randomly decide to up sticks, get up one night, get in a car, drive over to a house that they're completely unfamiliar with, enter into a house that's got multiple cars outside, and commit this crime. It's very, very fucking unlikely. And so the murder itself, with someone with autism, with no connection to them whatsoever, nothing, I would say that this crime is very, very highly unlikely. You could also say that because of the way people with autism are, with respect of the DNA, on the knife sheath, for instance, that would be highly unlikely that knife sheath would have been left. Would have been very highly unlikely. It also would have been incredibly highly unlikely that there would have been any DNA on that knife sheath had it have been someone with autism who was preparing to do this crime. And this knife sheath was bought, or this knife and sheath were got hold of for the reason of doing this crime. They would have been too intricate in setting things up. It also would answer some of the questions as to how the students had spoken about Bryan Kohberger being a harsh marker and the way that he had behaved, because he likely would become quite frustrated if things weren't done how he wanted them to be done, and that could come across as being quite blunt. It also could question how his employer and trainer, the university, would they really have sacked Bryan Kohberger if they were aware of his potential autistic traits, the fact that he could potentially have autism, and that was just filtering into his academia, should we say, and how he was teaching others. I don't know. I think there would have been more of a leniency. But again, why it's important, why it is so important, is because it tells you a bit more about the individual being accused, and some of the things that we as outsiders see as potentially weird, a bit strange, that could be easily explained. Again, the aforementioned gloves and things like this, and segregating rubbish, even though there was a legal reason for doing that, the way he did it you know. And also, again, feed them back into the alibi. Bryan Kohberger would spend time driving alone, being on his own. People with autism want to be on their own. They love being on their own. Like I say, our own child, I would say that she doesn't really have that many friends, doesn't really have that many friends, and it doesn't bother her. You know, she probably has one or two that she's very, very attached to, real close to. But she's not bothered. She doesn't want to go out and do the things that you would normally think sort of a 15, 16-year-old girl would want to do. And also some of the things that they talk about in this list, you know, the social cues issues and, you know, being very pernickety about things, going down to even food, what things and textures and what I will touch, what I won't touch, what I want near me, what I don't. But it's whether you can consider all of these things in this crime itself. If you remove the one thing that was pushed hard in the PCA, which was stalking, does that fit into someone with autism if you remove that? So this would then have to be completely random. Just to me, just doesn't make sense. I just can't see it happening. But I'm sure that I'm going to get a load of moany, whinging fuckers have a go now. But let me know down below what you think. Do you think it is really important? Do you think that if Bryan Kohberger does indeed have autism, or he is on the spectrum, which I think a lot of us have considered that he is because of the things that we have seen and we have heard, does that make a difference? If you're a guilter, let me know. If you feel now that Bryan Kohberger, if you all of a sudden learn that he is in fact autistic, does it change how you feel about him? Or does it not? You just want him shot? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all. Might be later, if not later, tomorrow. Love you all. Mwah.